All right, we're starting Masechet Sanhedrin, Da Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph in the Talmud Bavli. We're in the fourth chapter. Before we start the parak, I just want to clarify something we spoke about last week. I think I may have misspoken and said it incorrectly when we were talking about a mamzer and a mamzer coming out of the status of a mamzer. I think I said that if we married a ger, it would come out. That is incorrect. The status of a mamzer does not come out if you marry a female ger. The only way it comes out, the basic more in Kedushin, is if the mamzer marries a shifcha Kenanit. Okay, Kenanit maidservant, has kids from her, and then the master frees the Shifchat Cananit and her kids. And then what happens is now they become full-fledged Jews. I believe that's the only way to tie her up a mamzer. So I misspoke last week. I just wanted to correct that. So now we're starting on Daf Lan Zayin Amud Aleph. We're starting at a new Mishnah. And the Mishnah is really continuing the whole process that we've been going through Masechet Sanhedrin is how we deal with the judges, how we deal with the witnesses, how we deal with the people in the court case. So this Mishnah starts off, how do we admonish the witnesses? How do we scare the witnesses? How do we make sure the witnesses take it seriously when they're about to give testimony in capital cases? We would bring them into the betin, and we would say to them, perhaps you're saying testimony, you're going to say what happened, but not based on what you saw, but based on conjecture or hearsay. Okay, so conjecture is something must have happened, and it must have been him who happened it, right? The Gemara is going to give the case where you see a man running after someone with a sword, and you see them going into a ruin, like into a building, and when the time you come into the building, you'll see the man who had the sword, the sword is full with blood, and the man that was running away from him is on the floor, twitching away and dying. So the logical conclusion is that he killed him. But the Torah tells us you have to see in order to give testimony. So conjecture, figuring out what happened based on circumstantial evidence is not enough. And therefore we tell them, make sure what you're saying is not conjecture and it's not hearsay. Hearsay is, that's what everybody's saying. That's the rumor that everybody is saying this is what happened. Some want to say it's where the person who is killed, right? So as he's twitching away on the floor and dying, he says, "This man killed me," right? So we didn't see it still, right? So it's possible we still don't believe that either. Umishmua, hearsay, or aid, or he's repeating testimony from another witness. A witness told him what happened, and now he's repeating it over. Umipi Adam Ne'eman, or if you're saying testimony that you heard from a important person, right? You have the chief rabbi saying what happened, but you actually didn't see it, and now you're repeating from him. No good. Shema, perhaps you don't know that in the end, we're going to be examining you with questions. We're going to be asking how, what, when, where. The only way you were able to answer any of those questions is if you actually saw them. So therefore, be very careful. Then the Mishnah continues, and know that capital cases is very different than monetary cases. Very different. If you made testimony incorrect, right, and now you want to make tshuva, you want to fix it up, what do? You just pay back money to whoever you caused to lose money. But in capital cases, if you cause someone to die, you can't come and say, "Oops, I made a mistake. Let's reverse it." There is no reversing by capital punishment. Once you kill them, you kill them. So you got to be very careful. Becomes very careful when you're dealing with capital cases. How do we know this? Shekain. Is Achiv. You have a Cain who killed his brother Hevel, right? Shnemar, it says, Demei Achicha Tzoakim. The bloods of your brother is crying out. It doesn't say the blood of your brother. The blood is just one blood. It's just of one brother. Why does it say bloods, plural? Damo v'dam zarotav. To tell us, not only did you kill Hevel, but you killed all of Hevel's descendants. So in essence, you didn't just kill one person, you killed a lot of people. And that's how we begin to scare the witnesses by telling them, "But we hope your testimony is very correct. You know, you actually saw it. Because we're going to ask you questions. And know that if you succeed in giving false testimony, you're not just killing one person. You're killing many people. Even if you don't think it's false, even if you think it's true because you heard it from a good guy, you heard it from a lot of people, you heard it from the victim himself, you have to be very careful because you might kill someone, and not just that person, you might kill all of his descendants. Davar acher. The Mishnah, this is not something we tell the witnesses, but it's something that the Mishnah wants to add to explain what it means. Demei achicha. It means shehayat damo mushlach ala etzim ala avanim. That his blood was splattered over the trees and over the stones. We're going to see in the Gemara shortly that when Cain killed Hevel, he didn't know how to kill him. So he kept stabbing him over and over again until he stabbed his throat. And as such, his blood was splattered all over. So that's what it means, the bloods of your brother, because it wasn't pooled in one area, but rather it was splattered everywhere. Then the Mishnah resumes what we tell the witnesses. Lepikach, we tell them, Lepikach, know the value of every person. Lepikach nivra adam yichidi. That's why a person was, Adam Rishon was made alone. No one else was made with him. Not like they made 5 humans to start with, or 10 humans to start with. 1 human, just Adam. Lepikach nivra adam yichidi. Willem de Chor shekol ma'abed nefesh achab Yisrael. Ma'ala katu kilo ibed oil ma'ala v'chol mekayim nefesh achab Yisrael. Therefore, no, Adam Rishon was created alone to tell you, if you kill someone in Israel, it says if you killed the entire world, because one person can make an entire world, right? And if you save one person, it's as if you saved an entire world. And now the Gemara, the Mishnah continues to explain another explanation of why Hashem made 1 Adam Harishon and not 10 Adam Harishons, right? Also for the peace in the world. You know, if Hashem made 10 different humans to start with, people would say, my ancestor, I come from the one that was the most cautious, most important. You come from the least important one that God created in the beginning. Also, for another reason why we only created 1 human, we don't want people to come and say, there were different gods, and every god made his own human. And that's why each human comes from a different god, right? We don't want any like Greek mythology or anything like that. And also, it tells the amazingness of Hashem. Why? When a person makes coins, he mints coins from one mold. He takes a mold and he puts the coins inside, right? They put the liquid metal and then they make a coin. And what happens? Each of the coins look very similar to each other. Take every quarter, right? Take every dime, take every nickel, and they all look pretty much the same. There's really no differences between them unless they make a design difference, right? But if they're using the same design, they all look exactly the same. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adam, he minted all of the world, all the humans of the world from Adam Rishon, right? Adam Rishon, it says that Hashem blew into his nostrils, and over there, the Baltur says the Rosh Savei Toivos is Chatom, it's the Chotem, it's the mold, and Adam Rishon is the genetic pool for all humans. But yet, no human is exactly like his fellow man. Everybody has some uniqueness to them. Therefore, because everyone is so unique, and even though they come from the same mold of Adam Rishon, yet Hashem made it. Everyone is so unique. What is that teaching us? It's teaching us that everyone should say that the world was created just for me. The world was created for my sake. Since every man is potential progenitor of the entire race, one must consider himself the equivalent of a world. And he has to be very careful. This, by the way, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, I think you have to be very careful. You have to understand what it actually means. Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, here Rashi and Ramon explain that means that you have the ability to have a lot of children, a lot of descendants. Right? Don't read Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, meaning the world is created for me. I can do whatever I want now because it's all for me. That's a very low understanding of what it means. Our understanding is that it was created for me. That means I have greater responsibility. I have a responsibility to have children. I have a responsibility to be a good person. I have a responsibility to be attacking the world, whatever it is. But I think the Meiri says even more beautiful understanding, according to my understanding. The Meiri says that if the fact is Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, that the world was created for my sake, and what about my friends? It means Bishvilo Gamkein Nivra Olam, that the world was created just for my friend or my other friend and his friend. So that means that really the world was created for the other person as well. Now, if the truth is that the world was created for every person, every single individual, and everyone's Nivra Olam, then it becomes a lot easier to respect and accept other people. Why? Because you can say, here goes another Jew, and Bishvilo, Nivra Ha'olam, and because of him, Hashem created the world. And so, in that sense, it becomes easier to be mechabit, to honor someone, rather than saying, I'm better than him, or something like that, because yeah, you might be really better than him, that's very true. But still, Bishvilo, Nivra Ha'olam. Okay, now, after saying all this, and telling the witness, make sure you speak the truth, and if not, it could be problematic. We'll ask you questions. And if you end up killing, and if because of your testimony, you end up killing someone, you should know you're not just killing him, you're killing all his descendants. And if you kill one Jew, you kill the whole world. If you save one Jew, you save the whole world. So maybe Shema Taimru, perhaps they will say, you know what? Malanu with Sarah Hazot. We don't want to get involved in this. Although we saw what happened, we do not want to get involved. Why do we have to get involved in all this nonsense? The Mishnah says, well, like Farnemar, wasn't it already said? And the pasuk continues, he carry a sin. If a person saw and knows what happened, he has to come and tell. There's two witnesses. So therefore, okay, so therefore he has to say it. Maybe they say, yeah, the pasuk says I have to come and say it. But why do I want to get involved in killing this person? I rather maybe ignore the mitzvah to go and say something in order not to kill somebody. Where I said, no. Killing of Sha'im, Mishnah says the killing of Sha'im is not to be looking as a bad thing. But like Parnemar, but Avod Sha'im Rina. When the wicked perish, there is joy. So we see there's nothing to be scared about. Don't be scared that what you're saying is going to end up killing the man, because if he's really Arasha and it's going to end up killing him, then you're making joy in the world. But we're telling you to be very careful to make sure what you're saying is actually what you saw, not what you heard, and not this and not that. And that's the way we kind of admonish and make the witnesses take it serious for what they're about to testify to. So now, one of the things the Mishnah told us that the witnesses can't do is they should not speak on conjecture, right? They shouldn't speak on conjecture. Conjecture meaning um, they saw something, but they didn't actually see it happen, but they saw one thing and they deduced another thing and realized it must have been based on circumstantial evidence that this must have happened. If you think about it, that's what detectives do, and that's what investigators do. They figure out what happened based on the evidence that they do have, but you didn't actually see it. So the army said you're not allowed to give testimony to that. What's the case of someone who saw and knows what happened based on conjecture? Amr Lahain, Shema Kachru Item. They say to the witnesses, maybe you saw like this. Sharat Achacha Biro, Lahurbav Ratzem Acharab. You saw someone with a sword running after someone, and he went into a ruin, into like a building, an old building, and you ran after the one who was running after that guy. When you found the sword in his hand, and you see blood dripping down the sword, and then the guy who was running after is on the floor dying, twitching away. And if this is what you saw, you didn't see anything. Right? That was the case I told you. So this is the case of the Gemara, that you see something and you have circumstantial evidence and you know this is must what happened, but you didn't actually see him stab the guy. You can't give testimony. Right? You have to see the actual action for it to give testimony. Okay. So Tanya is talking about Amr Shimon ben Shatach, Ereb ben Hama. He's making a oath. He's swearing. He says, once I saw someone running after his friend into a ruin. And when I was running after him, and then I came inside and I saw him with a sword in his hand. And I saw blood dripping down, and the victim on the floor twitching away. And I said to him, this actually happened to me. When I told this guy with the sword in his hand, I said, Rasha, Rasha, you're a Rasha. Who killed this person? Oh, Ani, oh, Ata. It's only me or you. We're the only two people here who had the ability to kill him, right? And obviously it was me, Rav Shimon Shattuch says. Oh, Ani, oh, Ata. Oh, Maaseh. But what can I do? Your blood is not given into my hands, right? A king could kill a subject based on conjecture. Beit Din cannot. Shimon Shattuch says, I'm not a king, so I don't have your blood. I cannot just kill you. Torah, as the Torah says, you have to have two witnesses who saw the crime, and we don't have this here. Now, before we move on, and Tosfos deals with this is, what about hasra? What about warning? One of the things you have to give is warning to the man before he does it in order to punish him. So, okay, you don't have two that saw it, but where's the hasra? How would you punish them? So I want to say, maybe he was a Talmid Chacham. You don't have to give hasra. You don't have to give warning to. They have to know the halacha. Or B, it actually was Shimon ben Shattuch with somebody else, and he was telling them the hasra, but still they did give the warning, but he still didn't see what happened. So what did Shimon ben Shattuch say at this time? He said, the one who knows people's minds, right? Hashem, who knows people's minds, should pay this man from this man, meaning pay him back, get revenge, get revenge on him. They said, Lo zazu misham ad shevu nahash v'hikisho v'amed. They didn't move from there before a snake came and bit this man who had the sword, and he died. Now it says Yodea Machshavot. Shimon Shetach calls Hashem the one who knows people's minds. Yodea Machshavot. Because obviously no one else knows anyone else's mind except Hashem. So we call Hashem the one who knows people's minds. The Ben Yoda wants to say that this was special to Shimon ben Shatach. He would call Hashem Yodea Machshavot based on something that once happened to him. Someone in the Yishalmi, the Gemara brings a story that there was a Chassid, a holy man, who once had a dream, and in his dream he saw that they were showing him a place in Gehenna for Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach. He wakes up from his dream and he goes to Shimon ben Shatach and he tells him, I saw your place in Gehenna. You're going to Gehenna. So Shimon ben Shatach says, what's going on? Why would I go to Gehenna? So they say, you know why? So the man says, I tell you why they're putting you in Gehenna. You made a promise to kill the witches, and you have not yet done it. And therefore, you have a place in Gehenna. So Shimon ben Shatach says, wow, I thought about it, but I never actually said it with my lips. And yet it's counted as if I said it. Must be Hashem counts thoughts as sayings. And therefore, he started to in order to remember that Hashem knows his thoughts, he would call Hashem Yodea Machshavot. So here he's telling the man, the one who knows everyone's Machshavot should take care of you. And the snake came and bit this man. The Gemara says, "V'hai bar nachashu." But was this man chayav mita from a snake? Why did he get punished with a snake? Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said, so to learn in the Beit Midrash of Rav Chizkiah, from the day the Beit Midrash was destroyed, Sanhedrin, even though the Sanhedrin no longer exists, the four modes of death that the Beit Din would give are still around. The says, "Lo batlu." What do you mean didn't go away? They went away. We don't have a Beit Din. We don't we don't kill people anymore. Rather, the law, the final judgment of the Beit Din of the Alamitot did not disappear. Why? Someone who is Chayas Kila, what does Hashem do? O Nov Minagag, O Haya, O Haya, Dorsato. Either he falls from the roof, or wild beasts trample him. Right? This is Kila. Kila is what? Kila, you take someone, you throw him off the second floor, second story, and then if he still survives, you throw stones, and then you pummel him. It's the same thing here. If Hashem wants to punish someone who is Chayav, Skila, he makes him fall, or he makes people trample on him, just like the stones would. And continues the Gemara. Misha Chayav Sreifa, someone who is required to be burnt. What happens with him? O Nafal Bedleka, O Nahash Makisho. Either he falls into fire, or he's bitten by a snake. When you're bitten by a snake, it's the venom is very poisonous and it burns the whole body. So it's like srefa. So you see that the man was getting punished. He got punished with a snake bite. That's srefa. Let's look a little further. Someone who deserves beheading. What happens to him? Who, by the way, was one of the people who deserve beheading is a murderer. A murderer is chayav beheading. Ariga. So, either he's given over to the government. The government has a knack of killing people with the sword, or they give him to bandits somehow, and bandits also kill with the sword. Someone who's supposed to die through strangulation. What happens to them? Or he drowns in the water and he's unable to breathe, or met besir nochi, or he dies with this disease that makes you choke. You can't breathe. So someone who deserves to be strangled, he also dies in this way. So now what happens? Here in our story, the snake came and bit him. Now, snake is for those sins that are punishable by srefa. However, the sin of murdering someone, which this man is being punished for, obviously, he just killed someone with a sword, even though we didn't see it based on conjecture, and Yudea Machshavot, Hashem knows what happened. He should have been killed by either given over to the government, basically killed by the sword, either given over by the government or given over to bandits. So why did Hashem send the snake? They said, really, he had another sin also. And that sin, it was punishable by srefa. And srefa, burning, is more calmer than 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 the sword. So Amrei, Ahu Chet, Acharti Habebe, Amar Mar, Mishin Chayev, Shtei Mitot Beitin, Nidon Bachmura. If someone is Chayev two Chayav Mitaz in the Beitin, they give him from the stronger Mita first. Right? And that's how they kill him. They kill him with the stronger of the punishment. So this would be Stefa over Herod, over Harigi, over the sword. Okay, so at the end of the day, the man did die, and we do see today people do get punished. For those who say we see bad people who don't get punished, it's also true. And sometimes they have a zechut that gives them longer life, even though they deserve to be killed. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? All right, fine. Let's move on to the next Gemara. The Gemara says, right? And it says that if that conjecture, if you didn't see what actually happened, but you can figure out what happened, is not acceptable by capital punishment cases. So the Gemara wants to say maybe it's not acceptable by capital punishment, but it is acceptable by monetary cases. Perhaps only capital cases that were not use conjectures. But when it comes to the Mamonois, you could use conjecture. Maybe you could. When it comes to Dini Mamonois, then come on. Who is it like? Rav Acha, the Tanya Rav Acha, right? Tanya Rav Acha Omer, Gomo Oicher, Men Hagimolim, Benitza Gomo Harul Tzidoi, Beyadua Shize Hargo. Okay, so talking about a camel. Mara is talking about a camel who is gone into mating mode. Okay, so a male camel that wants to mate with a female. The Gemara is telling us that if a male camel wants to mate with a female, and then you find another male camel dead on the side, know that that other camel, the one that was mating, is the one who killed that camel on the side. Now, why does this happen? So they explain, Marshall explained. They explain the camel, when he gets into mating mode, he becomes very wild, and he also doesn't want anyone else to go to his female. So he'll fight any male in the vicinity. Others say the truth is that the camel, when he is physical with the female, he wants to be b'tzniya. He doesn't want anyone to look at him. And if he finds someone looking to him, then afterwards he goes and kills that other camel. So anyway, somehow during his intimate relation with his female partner, the camel can end up killing somebody. So if you saw a male camel getting into mating mode, and he's with a female, and then you find another dead male nearby, then a camel nearby, you know for sure that this male camel who went into mating mode, he is the one who killed that other animal. So we see that we do have conjecture, and Rav Acha agrees to the conjecture by Dinei Mamonot when it comes to monetary cases. Okay. Now the Gemara says, okay, now according to your reasoning, whatever it says in this Mishnah applies only to capital punishment and not to monetary cases. So with the Tamech, where it says that if one witness heard it from another witness, and now he's testifying what another witness told him, but in monetary cases, we'll say no. Why it should work? But it cannot be to tell me that if you heard one witness speak and another witness can say it over as a witness, you can't do that. Why? It's now we learned in the Mishnah. Amar li shani chayav lo. If someone says, a witness says that man told me he owes money to that person, we don't believe him. Amar li shani chayav lo. Ish plini amar li shu chayav lo. Lo amar klum. Klum. Ad shi amar panenu. I forgot to see the Mamonos. Amrinu lahu b'dinei nefashos. Avagad tzil dinei mamres. Amrinu lahu b'dinei nefashos. So the Gemara wants to say, you're telling me whatever it says in this Mishnah applies only to the capital punishment cases, not monetary cases, but it says in this Mishnah, witness from another mouth of another witness, we do not accept. And the truth is, we don't accept the Badini Mamanas either. Why? Because we had by the case where the owner of the loan said, I owe him $10,000, right? And he said it to the one judge, the one witness. That one witness can't come later and say, he said that the man himself owes the money, said that he owes the $10,000. We don't believe him. Why? Because it's aid and aid. He's heard it from him and he's saying it over. We're going to say, no, he didn't say it right. He didn't really mean it. He didn't want you to borrow money from him, whatever it is. We went through all that. So you see, APA doesn't work. So we say, you know what, even though this Mishnah is talking about Dinei Nefashot, this Mishnah is talking about capital punishment cases, the truth is it also applies by Dinei Mamanot, also applies by monetary cases. It just brings in here because it's more important here. But the truth is it also applies by Dinei Mamanot. The same thing with conjecture. Same thing from just figuring out what happened based on circumstantial evidence is not going to be acceptable either for aid or for the case of conjecture. It doesn't work for either monetary or for capital punishments. Okay, now the Mishnah said, you got to tell the witnesses that if you end up killing this man based on not good testimony, you should know you're killing out not just the man, but all of his descendants. Amri Yehuda Rechia, Nalamed. And then we said we know this from Cain and Hevel, because when Hevel was killed, it says, Demei Achicha, the blood of your brother, in plural, meaning that not just him, but all his descendants. Amri Yehuda Rechia, Nalamed, She'asa Cain, the Hevel, Achim, Haburot, Pitzio. This pasuk that says that his bloods were everywhere. It means because he made him a lot of holes in his body. He made him into like a sieve, like a strainer, holes everywhere. They didn't know from where the neshama comes out until he came to his neck. And when he punctured his throat and then he killed him, then he knew that the neshama left. So how did this happen? That his blood ended up everywhere. Either his blood splattered everywhere, but I think the Maharsha wants to say that with the instrument he was killing him, every time he pulled it out, the blood that was on it went flying everywhere. That's why it's called, another reason why it's called the Mei Achicha. Not just his descendants, but rather that his blood was scattered all over. Okay. Now we're going to have a lot of statements of Yehuda, the son of Rechia. Rabbi Yehuda was a twin with his brother Chizkiah. Chizkiah and Yehuda are twins and the children of Rabbi Hiyah. And they said as follows: in the day that the earth opened its mouth to swallow Hevel's blood, it swallowed it so much that there was no trace of the blood left on the earth. Now, whether it did it for a good reason or not, that's machloket. One way to look at it is it was trying to hide the sin of Cain. Cain was considered somewhat of a partner of the land. The land was some sort of a partner of Cain. And he was trying to cover up his sin, and therefore he opened his mouth and swallowed the whole thing. Or do we say that he wanted to provide dignity? The earth wanted to provide dignity to Hevel, and therefore it swallowed him up, so no one should see him in his disgrace. The kibul of damo shel Hevel, and once it opened its mouth and accepted the blood of Hevel, shuv loy pascha, it never opened its mouth again. Because we know everything in the world sings to Hashem, and when it talks about the land singing to Hashem, it says miknaf haaretz v'mirot shemanu tzvi l'tzadik. From the edge of the earth, we heard songs. Pray for the righteous one. So it says here that from the edge of the earth, the earth sings. Miknaf haaretz, when the earth sings, it sings from its edge and not from its mouth. So therefore, we see it doesn't open its mouth anymore. Now, I think Chizkiah, his brother said, "What are you talking about?" It says in Korach, in Parshat Korach, "V'tiftach haaretz piyah," and the earth opened up its mouth. So you see, it does open up its mouth. The Amar lay l'ra'al patcha, l'tova lo patcha. Yeah, you're right. It could open its mouth again for bad. That's how it opened its mouth to swallow Korach, but it can't open up its mouth for good. This is what its punishment. Its punishment for hiding Hemel's blood was that it can no longer it can no longer speak good stuff. It cannot speak praise. It cannot do those things. It cannot go through it because the earth messed up its mouth for good. Therefore, it can only now do bad stuff. So far, so good. Any questions on this? Okay. Moving further. Va'ama Rabbi Yehuda, the rain, Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Chia, also said, Galut mechaperet avon mechitza. When a person goes into exile, half of his sins get erased. Ketiv, how do we know? V'ha'iti na v'nad. It says that Cain would have to be na v'nad, will move around and wander in the land. Na v'nad. Okay, so either he has to always be on the move, or another way to understand it, na v'nad means that everywhere he would go, it would be like an earthquake under his feet. But then, after the pasuk says, "Vayetze Cain," that Cain left his where he lived. Right after it says, "Usof ketiv, vayeshev be'eretz Nod." He settled in the land of Nod, and doesn't say Nah. Doesn't say the word Nah anymore. It just says the word Nod. So you see that once he left where he was living, vayetze, he went out. You see galut. When you leave somewhere, galut already was mechaperet for half of his sins. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Galut mechaperet shlosha divarim." Rabbi Yehuda says that exile gets rid of three types of death. Shenemar, it says in Yirmiyah, Yirmiyah is telling the Jews, it's time to surrender to the Babylonians. Let's not fight them anymore. It's time to surrender. And he says, or he says that Yoshabir Hazok, people who stay here in Israel, they're going to end up dying through the sword, through hunger, and through pestilence. Vayotzev and Afal Kazdim, Atzarim, Alechem Yichya, Vaitalo, Nasha Mishalal. Yirmiyah says, if you're going to stay here in Yerushalayim, you're going to be killed out. But if you get up and you go to Bavel, you surrender to them, you'll end up living. So you see that you will stay away from the deaths of sword, hunger, and pestilence if you practice galut and leave your town. Rabbi Yochanan says, galut mechaperet al hakol. Exile atones for everything. Nemar, as it says, Kol Amar Hashem, kitfu et ha'ish hazeh alari. Hashem is upset with King Yechoniah. He was one of the kings of Yehuda, one of the later kings of Yehuda. And so Hashem writes about King Yechoniah that he's going to be childless. He will not have succession in his days. And Hashem says that King Yechoniah, you will not have any children, any boys, and they will not become sitting on the throne of David. It's not going to happen. So based on whatever his sin was, that's what Yirmiyah was telling him. You're not going to have it. And then he was exiled. He was taken to Babylonia. Ovnei Yechoniah Asir Beno Shealtiel Beno. So now that he's in Bavel, he's taken out of Yerushalayim, he's put into exile. It says he did have children. He had Asir and he had Shealtiel. How could that be? It must be. And that, by the way, in the end, he would have Zerubbabel, right, being a descendant from him. Zerubbabel was coming back to Saul at the time of Nehemiah, right? Ezra. So how could it be that Navi said he's not going to have any children and he's not going to have any succession onto the throne, and all of a sudden he does have a baby, and he does have succession. How could this be? Because Galut. When he went into exile, everything was made tshuva. Everything was mechaperet. Everything got erased. Now the Gemara wants to know Asir. Why is it called Asir? Shibarto imo abita asurin. Because his mother became pregnant in prison. Right? Sha'altiel. Why is it called Sha'altiel? Sheshatelo el isha kederech hanishtalim. Because it's called Shaltiel because Hashem planted him. Shaltiel. Hashem planted him in his mother's womb. Because a woman cannot conceive in an upright position. So what's this all talking about? And Shaltiel's mother convinced him while standing. So the story goes, it's brought in the Yikra Rabbah in Midrash Yikra Rabbah 19:6. That's one of the sources for the story. That King Yechoniah is in a dungeon in Bavel. He's in a very, very small, tiny spot. And he doesn't have much place to move in there. Somehow the Jews spoke to Nebuchadnezzar and his generals, and they appeased him. And they said, please let him be with his wife, let him have a child. So they gave permission. But he wasn't allowed to come out. The visit would have to be in the dungeon. The dungeon is very narrow and very small. They lower the wife on a rope, either through the roof or through the window, whatever the light source was coming to that dungeon. And she was brought in front of her husband who was in the dungeon. So now she comes down and she says, I just realized that I'm Tameh. Either Ziva or Anita, whatever it was. She says, I'm Tameh. Now he's been in the dungeon for a very long time. His wife finally is there. But he says to her, you know what, if you're Tameh, then you're Tameh. And they didn't know they were going to get another chance to come down. She's going to get another chance to come down. But Tameh, they sent her up. She came up, she counted her days and everything, and she got permission to come back to him. Came back to him at this time. They had relations, but since there was no place to lay down, their intimacy was standing up. And we know that when you stand up, the chances of conceiving is very little. So therefore, it says Asir. There's one son named Asir because they were conceived in the prison, right? And Shaltiel because he was conceived while standing. Some want to say it's actually the same person. Asir and Shaltiel, it's just giving different names to the same boy. Davar Achar, Shaltiel, another reason why it's called Shaltiel, Shinishal al El. It's called Shaltiel because Hashem had to ask for permission to give him children. Why? In another pasuk we brought in the beginning, Hashem said, Yechoniah, you're in trouble. You're not going to have any children. You're not going to have a successor. And now he made tshuva, and Hashem wants to give him children. So Hashem had to ask a question. What question? He had to ask the malachim to give him atarat nidarim. That's why it's called Shaltiel. Shenishal al alato el, because he had to ask on his friends in the malachim for atarat nidarim. Now, eventually, one of his descendants was Zerubbabel. Why is he called Zerubbabel? Shenizah beBavel. He was planted in his mother's womb in Bavel. Mashimo, what was his real name? So here the Gemara says, Nehemiah ben Chalia Shemo. Nehemiah that we know from the Sefer Ezra Nehemiah was his name. Now, whether Zerubbabel was actually Nehemiah, we're trying to say probably not, because Nehemiah is clearly someone else and not Zerubbabel. But some want to say that no, there was two Nehemiahs, and this Nehemiah was, whatever it is, our Gemara here says that Zerubbabel was Nehemiah. Okay, so far so good. One last piece of Gemara, I believe. Yes. One last piece. Yehuda v'Chizkiah. B'nei Rabbi Achia. They were children of Rabbi Chia. We already know this, the twins. They were sitting at a meal before Yehuda Hanasi. And they were sitting there and they were not talking. They have Yehuda Hanasi, and you have Yehuda Chizkiah, children of Rebbe, and no one's talking. So what does Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi do? Amr Lahu, Rabbi said to his servants, Agberu Chamra Darkei. Kihechi Delimru Milta. He says, give them some wine to drink so that their mouth becomes loose and they start talking. So Kivon to Ibasum, right? Libisume, right? That's the Libisume from Purim. Five Adam, five Unshe Libisume to get full with wine. So Kivon the Ibasum, once they became a little bit intoxicated, they opened the discussion by saying, Ein Bein David Bach, Mashiach would not come Shnei Batei Avot Israel, until two ruling families of Israel cease to exist. They have to disappear. The Elohein, and which two families? Rosh Golashe beBavel, the head of the exile in Babel, V'Nasi sheBe'eretz Yisrael, and the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. When their family disappeared, then Mashiach would come. And who is the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael? Right? Yehuda Hanasi. It's who they're eating at. That's the table that they're eating at. So we're going to have to see his reaction in a second. Shenemar, the Pasuk, Vayala Migdash Ule'even Negev U'Tzur Michshol L'Shnei Batei Yisrael. And he, Mashiach, will be a Migdash for the Jewish people, and he'll be a tripping stone and a stumbling block for the two houses of Israel. Meaning that Israel, the Mashiach, is going to be great for everybody except for these two families. Okay, so that's where they got it. The Mashiach won't come until the Reish Galusa's family and Yehuda Nasi's family is no longer around. So Amr Lehem, Yehuda Nasi said to them, Banav, I'm giving you a meal and he's throwing thorns into my eyes. You're saying Mashiach won't come until my family is eradicated from earth. How does it make any sense? So Amr Lo B'Hiyah. So now their father B'Hiyah is nearby. He's going to save the kids. So Amr Lo B'Hiyah. Don't get upset with them. Yain is given the value of 70, right? Yain, Gematria, Yud Nun, 70 is Sod. And Sod, secrets, Nitan B'Shivim Otiot is also given with 70, right? Nichnat, Yain, Yatza, Sod, they drank some wine and came out secrets. It's not their fault that they're saying these things. You gave them wine and wine, and now they're just saying the secrets. You can't get upset with them. So some want to explain what was really going on over here. If I remember correctly, there was a Mefarish that wanted to say, it doesn't really mean that Yehuda Nasi's family has to disappear. It has to get eradicated. But rather what he was saying was, you have like the moon. The moon, some days it's getting closer to a fuller moon, and some days it's getting further away. So what the kids were saying, there's kids, this is Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Cheskia, what they were saying was, Rechia's children, what they were saying was, we have to have like the families disappear in the sense that their prominence disappears, so Mashiach's prominence can take over. That's what they were saying. And what was Rabbi Chia saying to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi about the 70? So the Ben Yoda wants to say that he was saying to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, listen, just like there's Yain at 70 and secrets are 70, there's also 70 explanations to the Torah. And they're saying one explanation, one secret, one explanation, but really their one explanation is vatal, is going to be nullified in all the other explanations that we have. So you have nothing to worry about. Okay, so exactly what they said. Obviously, you're talking to someone, you should never say your family needs to be erased in order for Mashiach to come. Right? We don't want that problem. And the person needs to be a little careful with his yayin. Because a yayin comes in, all the person's secrets start to come out. In a sense, if a person is Kadosh, then Torah secrets will come out. If there's anything you take away from this week's Gemara, I think was what we learned in the Mishnah, where it says, Bishvili Nevra Ha'olam. The Mishnah said that the world was created for me, which we understood to mean that it was given to me with a lot of responsibility, right? You have to make sure that you're doing your part in the world. I think the greater lesson was from the Meiri, who said, if the world was created for me, then it was also created just for my friends, right? The Shvili applies to everybody. So if it was created just for my friends, so then I have to honor him more because the world was created for him. So I think that's a great lesson to go with. As Hashem, we'll pick back up next week. Okay? Shavua Tov L'Kulam. Any questions? I'll take it at this time.
Baruch. Thank you.